Welcome to the Less Stressed Life podcast. This is your host, Krista Bigler, private practice integrative nutritionist, helping people across the U.S. reverse digestive issues, eczema, and autoimmunity via phone and video consult. To learn more, visit lessstressednutrition.com. Now, on to the show. All right, so today on the Less Stressed Life podcast, I have with me one of my favorite chefs, Sanaa Abourezk. Sanaa is a gourmet chef, restaurateur, author, nutritionist, food blogger. You may have seen her on the show Beat Bobby Flay on the Food Network, and she has a bachelor's of science degree in ag engineering and a master's degree in nutrition. She has a passion for the art of cooking, teaching cool recipes, and fighting child hunger in America and the world, which I love so much as well. Sanaa owns and operates Sanaa's, a popular vegan gluten-free restaurant in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. And I will just tell you, I was there last year for a social event, and Sanaa kind of told us her background story, and I just fell in love with it. And by the way, if you're ever in that area, she has the best food, but she has this amazing buffet on Saturday, so you can try all the things. I love it. So welcome, Sanaa.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you.
Will you tell us, so let's talk about that story, because you really didn't want to land in the middle of nowhere. Not that it's the middle of nowhere, but it felt like that.
Yeah.
So talk to us about...
Don't say that, yeah.
Yeah, don't say that. It's really it's a wonderful place, and it's really grown a lot, but you've been around since before it was, before health became, I feel like, I don't know, this is hard for me to say, because for me, health has been always important, but it's becoming, people are becoming more interested in health, in the last 10 years.
Maybe. Yes, which is wonderful. Yeah, I grew up in Syria, and my father was a farmer, and so that's why I ended up in agricultural engineering. He used to cultivate olive trees and vegetables and olives for olive oil. Anyway, so I decided to come to America to pursue graduate degree, and then with a few twists, I ended up with master in food and nutrition. Anyway, I went to Washington, D.C. to get my PhD. I met my husband, my future husband. And, after I said I do, he said, oh, by the way, I'm moving back home. And home was South Dakota. I never heard South Dakota before I said I do. So that's how I ended up here by accident. I just ended up marrying a guy who is originally from South Dakota.
I love it. Well, and you started in California, went to Washington, D.C., so these big places you've heard of when you're not from this country. And
yes.
maybe I like your story because similar thing happened to me once when I said I do. I was like, oh, I'm also moving home. So to the middle, to out in the country. So tell us what happened then.
You tell us before you move. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. You were saying before you move.
Yeah. I said, I wish they'd tell us before we said that we do.
Yeah, no kidding. No, I remember, actually, on that note, I remember my husband pretending to like cooking and shopping when I first met him. And I told my mom this, and she said, he's just pretending. And he was just pretending. So
that's funny.
Until it's too late. So then you moved to South Dakota, and it is before health is interesting, and it's kind of, it's not a major food desert, but it probably felt like it when you were used to something else. So what happened next?
Yeah, so, like I said, I came from Damascus, which is, even up to now, people cook from scratch every day. And then D.C., California, we buy fresh vegetables. Anyway, so we moved to South Dakota, and all of a sudden, my husband's vegetarian, mind you, so we moved here, and then, we want to go to a restaurant, and we'll ask, okay, we'll have the Reuben sandwich, we'll pay for the full amount, but don't put the roast beef. Mm-hmm. Or chicken Caesar sandwich, hold the chicken, and we would start entertaining at home. I thought, okay, the best thing is just to entertain at home and cook for people. And we did that almost every weekend. And one of our guests was an owner of the building where I am right now. And then she called me and she said, would you consider opening a restaurant? And here I am, 15 years later, still working on that restaurant.
Well, and it's an amazing restaurant, but you're skipping the part about where you were a bit depressed, being away from friends, and then you started inviting people for food. And I think, didn't your husband suggest you love cooking? Why don't you go to cooking school?
Yeah, actually, before we moved to Sioux Falls, we moved from Washington D.C. to Rapid City, and because he wanted to be away from people, he bought the house before I was still packing my stuff in Washington D.C. So he bought the house without me, and he bought the house outside Rapid City in the hills, just a few miles from Mount Rushmore. It was, stunning, beautiful, everything. And I went crazy. I love people. I love noise. I love pollution. I love traffic. And so we got there, and everybody said, like, oh, so beautiful, fresh air. And I'm like, go inside. I pull my hair, like, I can't take it anymore. So one day he came home, and he found me literally just sitting in the closet, crying and pulling my hair. I just couldn't take it. So he said, he said, why don't you pursue what you like, cooking? Just do cooking. So I ended up going to Paris for baking, and then I went to Florence, Italy for sauces, and came back home and started writing cookbook and inviting our neighbors to try the recipes. And that's when I published my first cookbook. And then the restaurant came when we moved to Sioux Falls. And anyway, Rapid City still wasn't, I loved this atmosphere, and I loved it, but I really needed more people. I needed more, I don't know how to say it, life.
Yeah. Maybe a little more culture and access to ingredients. Yeah, exactly. So we moved here, and then, like I said, that ended up a couple of years inviting people, and then I ended up opening the restaurant. But yeah, actually, had I probably found a job, or I enjoyed being in the hills between the bears and the mountain goat, maybe I would have never opened the restaurant. So in a way, I'm glad I didn't. So I'm in my restaurant. Yeah. There's a video I love online. It's really short, and it's a rabbi that talks about how we create change in a better life. And he says, look at the lobster, and the lobster gets uncomfortable because it wants to grow, but its shell is so small, and so it wants to grow, so it has to shed its shell and create a new shell, and that's so discomfort makes us grow into a new way. So, and actually,
yes, yeah, I like that.
Yeah, I do too. Let's go back one step, because we did miss the part about you came from a family where you need to go do something pretty prestigious. So you go into engineering, but you didn't love it. So then why did you get a master's in nutrition?
Well, okay. So basically, yes, my family was, you are either an engineer or a doctor. That's it. Mm-hmm. There's no, and I, in a way, I appreciate that now so much, because my dad wanted for us to be independent. And that's for him, that's how you become, you have your own career. Mm-hmm. So you don't need anybody. So and I appreciate that so much. Anyway, but he has a farm, so I end up, agricultural engineering. I hated working for him. He's your dad, so whatever you do, he doesn't like. Mm-hmm. He knows more than you. And then I had a professor who graduated in the agricultural college. He graduated from California, Berkeley. So he was always talking about America, America, America. So I told my dad, can I get, go to America and get PhD? Why PhD? Because what's the title in front of my name will be doctor. Mm-hmm. And he agreed, because, then you become a doctor, of course. So you can come back and teach in college. So I said, perfect. So they actually supported me. And I came to America. I went to school first in English in Washington, D.C., and then I was accepted in California. I went for my interview to apply for my master's degree in agricultural engineering. While I was waiting for the interview, a lady came. She looked like me, curly hair, short, a little bit dark skin. So she sat next to me, and she said, where are you from? I said, I'm from Syria. She said, why are you here for? I said, I'm waiting for an interview for a master's degree in agriculture. She said, do you like biochemistry? I said, I love biochemistry. She said, do you enjoy working in the farm? I said, not really. She said, come interview with me. She was the head of the food and nutrition department. I interviewed with her, and I was accepted at the food and nutrition. So that's why I switched.
She swiped you up out of the waiting room.
That's why, yeah. I was. I think, I was just thinking, I don't want to work in the farm with my dad. So it was easy to convince me.
Yeah, it was. Now, let's talk about your dad. You said he grew olives. So when you came to the U.S., I mean, I'm always on the pursuit of great olive oil. So were you able to get big barrels of olive oil over to yourself when you permanently resided in the U.S.? Or I know this is a ridiculous question, but this is like something I've aspired to for a long time, having a great source of olive oil. So did you have a great source of olive oil?
Well, when I first was a student, so I would buy like the 16 ounce because it was so expensive.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll buy this, and then when I go visit my family, my father would, said, take some with you, take some. And I said, Dad, I can't carry 10 gallon of oil on the plane, because he would think how much it costs. So I would only buy, the small bottle, and I was very frugal with it.
I feel like this is tragic. I feel like they should have sent you a barrel.
Yeah,
in retrospect.
Especially for us, absolutely, I agree. For us, coming from this family, or even from Mediterranean, if you have nothing to eat, all what you do is put olive oil, some spices in it, and you eat it with bread. That's, for us, it's, how do you say, it's basic like water.
Yeah, I love that. I love that you just mix it with fresh spices and have some bread. That is beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
I love it.
And even now, we, like I said, if I feel like, I don't want to cook, I don't want anything, especially in the summertime, slice of tomatoes, olive oil, some little bit of a mixture of, like we call za'atar.
Did you say a mixture of pepper?
Nice bread.
Mm-hmm.
Spices, it's called za'atar. Now it's becoming popular in the United States. So if you go, now you go to like Bon Appetit magazine, you'll find some za'atar, Middle Eastern za'atar. That basically mix of herbs.
What's it? Can you spell it?
Yeah. Za'atar is Zaatar.
Oh, okay. Yeah, za'atar. Okay, I think I've seen that before. Okay.
Yep. Yeah, now it's becoming popular. So, yeah.
So let's talk about the influence of the diet from what you grew up with to what you found in America and what you've created now. Because in between there, you went to food school. So I'm guessing you brought your own flair, but tell me about what a typical meal was growing up. And if that, I'm sure that really influences, obviously, your Mediterranean restaurant, but talk a bit more about that.
Well, for example, I'm going to talk about breakfast. When I see people eating cereal or Pop-Tart or something, for us, breakfast, it's like a plate of labni. Labni is the drained yogurt, Greek yogurt, or Middle East. It's just a plain yogurt. You drain it, so it becomes like a cream cheese almost, but a little bit more spreadable. It's between cream cheese, the texture, and mascarpone cheese, but it's sour. Mm-hmm. And you drizzle it with olive oil, and next to it you have different kind of pickled olive. You have green olive.
So you have
you have different kind of cheeses. Then you have
So you have a Greek yogurt that's strained with olive oil and olives and spices.
And different kind of olives. Think of the tapas. Have you seen the tapas table?
Yes.
Okay, same principle. So you in the morning, they'll bring fresh bread, fresh flat bread. Mm-hmm. They put a plate of the labni, that's the drained yogurt, a plate of green olives, a plate of black cured olives, fresh eggs, fresh tomatoes, fresh mint.
I'm writing it down.
And then a bowl of olive oil, so to dip. That's and different kind of cheeses. That's like your basic breakfast.
And
because,
now,
and if you think about it, this is your best meal. That's if you eat good at that meal, you're good all day.
Yeah. So, your restaurant is vegan now. So translate this to a vegan breakfast for me.
Okay, almost vegan, because don't forget, in South Dakota, a lot of women come in dragging their husbands. So we do have actually for that. I call it Norwegian safe food. So everybody eat it. Yeah.
You have husband safe food at the vegan restaurant. You cut out
Yeah,
there for a
yeah.
second.
They cut, basically the men come in holding their hands around their breast, like, okay, what are you going to feed me? Looking at, So we say we have a Norwegian safe food. We have this is for you and this is for you. So yeah. It's not 100% vegan. We do have couple dishes, so especially for.
It's fun.
So if you want a vegan breakfast, that's what you're asking me.
Yeah, vegan breakfast. Hold on, Sanaa. I'm going to change to one second. Sure. Before you keep talking, I'm going to change to a hotspot because you kind of cut out there for a second, and I want to make sure it's not on my end. No, it's fine. I just I'm just going to change the internet for a second and make sure it doesn't, see if it's on me and it doesn't happen again. One sec. I'll tell you when I'm ready. It might disconnect us too.
Sure.
Hold on. Hold on. All right, I think it went. All right, one second. Let me write this down so my assistant is. All right, are you still there?
Yes.
All right, great.
I'm here.
Okay, so we talked about this typical breakfast. That's the Greek yogurt and the olives and the fresh spices and the fresh tomatoes and the eggs. I mean, that's a hearty meal. So, and we were talking about the contrast between what's. Yeah, can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, you're breaking up a little bit.
Okay. Let me know if it continues, and I'll make some other changes. I don't know if it was an accident or I'm not sure. But let me know if it continues, and we'll make a change.
No, it's working fine now.
Okay, beautiful. So we talked about the Greek breakfast with the kind of the hybrid, the spreadable, like drained Greek yogurt with the olives and the bread and the fresh eggs and it's the herbs. What I hear is herbs and healthy how I love that. So tell us, because you're a vegan restaurant, tell us what the vegan version of this breakfast is, and then tell me how some of this inspired your current restaurant menu.
Okay, so the spice mixture, the one I told about, is za'atar. So basically, they put a bowl of the mixed herbs, the za'atar, and they put an olive oil next to it. So you dip with it. Then you have the hummus, which is a high protein spread. Then you have the bread, and they only use yeast and olive oil. Then we make a spread. Hello, can you hear me?
Oh, yep, I can hear you.
Oh, okay. And then you have a spread, basically is walnut, red pepper, and olive oil. Also, you can spread it on the bread. And then you have all kind of cheeses and baby cucumber. And then they have something very unique in that area in particular. They take baby eggplant, and they start around September, October. So you just go as the farmer, you want a baby eggplant. So I want 40 pounds of baby eggplant. What they do with the eggplant, they stuff it with the mix of hot pepper and sweet pepper and garlic and walnut, and then they pickle it in olive oil. And that's part of your breakfast, so they put 3 or 4 of them. So everything I mentioned right now is all vegan.
Yeah.
Because, and it's inexpensive. See, that's another thing. A lot of people around the world, they eat vegan. It's a way they came out, ingenious way to basically feed their family and let them grow on a vegan item. So they knew how to manage to mix hummus with bread, beans with rice, so they can have full protein, very inexpensive source for it.
Right. So what do we call this pickled baby eggplant dish?
Magdous. By the way, my husband hates it.
Really?
Yeah, because it's he can't think, which I can see from somebody who grew up in America. How can you eat so much garlic for breakfast? Because it's garlic and pepper and walnuts.
Well, I don't know if this is the same recipe, but I think both of your cookbooks. I have the one I use more. I think it's yellow. I'm not sure if it's the gluten-free one, but one of the first recipes in it is basically 2 red peppers and a lot of walnuts, and I think a lot of olive oil, maybe something else. So I'm not sure if it's this spread. It's this red pepper dip, and it is so
Muhammad,
good.
That's the one you spread on the bread. Thank you. That's the one we spread on the. So you have your fresh bread. And immediately, while it's still hot, you spread that spread on it. and that, you have your breakfast. You can roll it, have it like a wrap, and you can have breakfast like that.
Yeah. That's one of my favorite things. Like that tastes good on anything. So sometimes if I'm cooking something fancy, or just if I have people who enjoy food, I'll make that. But I think people who don't know they like nice food, they still like that. It's such a good easy dip. So it's very yummy. So you're talking about fresh bread often, but you've really mastered gluten-free bread and gluten-free cooking. Why is that?
Well, for me, food is pleasure. I mean, it's not only, it's essential, of course, for us to grow, but it's part of life pleasure that, in every culture. So for me, when I opened my restaurant, I'm a dietitian, everything, but I never thought of paying attention to gluten-sensitive food or gluten-free food. So when I have few customers and come and tell me, we can eat bread. So I took it as a challenge. If you eat something, I want you to enjoy it. I don't want to tough luck. You're gluten sensitive. You have to eat this cardboard. That's not acceptable to me. You have to enjoy it.
Right.
So it took me a while. I worked with different ingredients, and I'm very happy to say that, my gluten-free pita bread, it tastes exactly like regular pita bread.
Yeah. And the secret is, I think you're using potato flour. I think you write about this in one of your cookbooks, but
yes. Yes.
What were the ups and downs in trying to figure out the gluten-free baking for you?
Well, different kind of flours, because, like, for example, I didn't like fava bean in the mixture. I didn't like garbanzo beans in the mixture. The garbanzo bean, it tasted more like a falafel. Mm-hmm. The fava bean one, it was so strong that overpowered everything else. And for me, bread should not, unless you're eating a focaccia, for example, that you want to eat it on its own, bread should be neutral. I mean, it tastes good on its own, but should not compete with whatever you have with it. Mm-hmm. So I'd like to have its own flavor, very nice flavor, but it's not strong to kill the other dish. So the one with the fava bean, I felt like it just kind of tasted, everything I ate, it tastes like fava bean. So I worked with different flours, and then to make it rise, because pita bread, it pops open. The gluten in the regular flour, that's what it's like a gum. It makes the pita bread become pocket bread. So that was my challenge. I wanted something that it popped open. Mm. So I kept using yeast, baking soda, different flours, and I don't want to use eggs. I want to make it vegan. I don't want to use any dairy because I want to make it vegan, dairy-free. So anyway, working with that after, like I said, about 6 months, got it. It worked. And I basically, for the secret for that, make it so, chewable, doesn't break, is I boiled rice and then I puree it. So it becomes sticky and it pops with the yeast. Mm-hmm. And like I said, I mean, I'm very happy with the bread.
Yeah. You could consult for a food company if you have any free time.
Thank you. Yeah. One time I went to, when I was growing up, I was really overweight because I love food. So I went to the doctor. My mom took me to lose weight, and he said, describe what you eat. So I was describing everything, the spices, the herb. He said, you're never going to lose weight. You enjoy food too much to lose weight.
Well, it wasn't all a bad thing.
Well, I just quit desserts. I mean, bad dessert, and I did lose the weight, but I still eat the food. But anyway, but that's what I remember. That he just looked at me. He said, young lady, you're not ever going to lose weight.
Took that as a challenge a little bit. But,
exactly.
I've heard you. What I really love about your restaurant is that this isn't just a restaurant. This is a lot of flavor, and you can you are a master of flavor while still accommodating lots of special diets. We're in a society where we're usually kind of bland and boring. You've made it so delicious that I don't know how anyone could not like it. But I hear you say food is about enjoyment. You don't think that people who need to eat gluten-free need to eat cardboard. So if I was to ask you about your view about food and your food philosophy, would you just say food is for something that brings us together? It's for love. What's your food philosophy?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like I said, okay, take food first is a basic need. Everybody has to have it in order to grow. But same time, it's, when you're happy, like if you walk to a place and you smell something, sometimes immediately it brings you this old memory. Oh, I had, my grandmother used to make this cinnamon. It's beautiful memories. It's something that bring us joy. When you have a special occasion, you get together. When you have a wedding, you get together. Even sometimes in death, what we do, we get together over a meal. Right. And second thing is, this is one of the few things that we have control over in our life. So when you cook together, you're having fun. When you're talking, when you're walking in the street in Rome, you smell chestnut. So now you have memory of Rome. So all this, for me, it has to be pleasurable. Like I said, we have something we have control over. So I don't care how much you diet. I don't care what's your restriction. You have to enjoy the food. If you're eating something like a medicine, you're taking some part of life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you're talking about enjoying things. What about the community? You talk about the health benefits associated with being surrounded by family and friends and community. Why do you think that's so important?
It's, I'm going to just describe for you a meal. So let's say, you're cooking together, you start talking, you're visiting. Immediately, little by little, your stress levels start going down and down. And then when you start eating and sitting on the table, sharing stories, almost like you're doing therapy with each other, and then you're connecting to each other. For us, for example, around the area where I'm from, there is no psychiatrist because your neighbor is psychiatrist, your mother is psychiatrist, your sister is psychiatrist. I'm serious, because you sit down and you're cooking together and you say, oh, guess what happened today? So I'm, oh, really? Oh, yeah. And let me tell you what happened to me. In 2 or 3 hours, by the time you finish dinner and had your, we drink tea after you had your tea, you're feeling great. You're not angry with your husband anymore. You find that your child is as active or as bad as anybody else. Your friend is, so basically it's a kind of bringing your community together, and it's taking your stress level way, way down. You go home happy.
Yeah, I love it. It's a stress management routine. Stress management hygiene.
Absolutely. You're talking about it. Basically, that's what they do at the psychiatrist. You're talking about it. But now you're talking about it without anybody, without you feeling self-conscious, because this is your friend, this is your family. And the minute one start talking, the others start talking. That's why for me, I think it's so important to enjoy a meal together, not eating while you're watching TV, because then it's, what's the use?
Yeah, for sure. Or eating while you're working or something like that.
Or eating while you're working. Or even like for us, one thing we don't do at the restaurant, we only open one night for dinner. I don't like to flip table. The table is yours for the evening. When you come out to eat at the dinner, you should take your time, eat everything, sit 4 hours. I love it. The longer you stay, the more I like it.
Yeah, I love it. I look forward to coming back and just sitting then and having tea appropriately. Let me ask you this, because when you talk about this, I think, oh, yes, I used to have so many dinner parties. That was like how I went through college with dinner parties. But I know you have children. I know you have one daughter, if I'm thinking about this correctly. Yes. Maybe you have a son as well. They were growing up.
That's correct.
Okay. Mm-hmm. When they were growing up, were you able to have this therapeutic meal with them where you got to chat, or did you feel like there was some chaos in there as well at a certain age?
No, basically what I did, I'm grateful that I made the decision that I don't open for dinner, period.
Yes.
So I was able, to pick up my daughter from school, come home, and then what I did with her, I would make a dough. And she has many of every instrument I have in the kitchen. And then I make her, rip the salad, and then how's school, what's going on? And she's making pizza over and over the same dough. By the time she finished, it's a horrible dough. I make, but she's talking to me, I'm talking to her. And then up to now, she never still, she's just graduated from college. So she still, when she come home, she sits on the same, so she did all her homework. eating on the dining room table. So I'm next to her in the kitchen. We're talking and visiting. And now I'm happy to say that for the last 3 years in college, she cooked her own meals, and she would send me pictures, or she would call me, what should I do with this? Say, okay, do this, So it's still part of our connection.
Yeah. Your relationship. I love it.
Yes.
That's a great way to talk about like making things enjoyable. And I think that's a really like key message that you don't maybe even realize that you're putting off. I'm sure you probably do, but it's all about really enjoying things and getting comfortable with them. So cooking and being creative in the kitchen can be a lot of fun. What do you think is the number one barrier to people enjoying cooking?
There is, I think we lost a generation of training home cook. For a while, all the frozen meals, eating out. So at least from people I'm hiring, when I hire them, they still, some of them are afraid to use a knife, or they never chop something. And so it's people are becoming nervous. Now it's changing. I can see it changing, and I'm very grateful for that. So what I always tell people, I said, don't start with some books and like even some recipes in magazines. You go like, make this first, and then make this sauce second, and then mix 1 with 2, and then you go on and on. That's intimidating to anybody. Mm-hmm. If you have a family, I tell them, start simple recipe, pasta sauce with some pasta, and let the kids make the salad. Doesn't have to be complicated dish. Once in a while, like this weekend, my daughter and I were thinking, we chose a dessert recipe that making phyllo dough from scratch, which I think is crazy. Right. But just for the heck of it, we're going to do it. But that is once a while. But every day, I honestly, even at home, I make the simplest dishes because, like you said, it has to be fun. If it's intimidating and you're sweating and you're nervous, you defeat the whole purpose of cooking at home.
Right. And I think something that is ingrained in you and that I'm always trying to embrace is that you can have a very simple dish, but it's some flavors. You just need some flavors, and you just need to get comfortable with something like some adding a little flavor. That's really the thing, like just to go out there and experiment.
Exactly.
That's
what I tell people. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, like, what do you say? Like, what are some of your favorite flavors to bring in that like make anything taste good?
Oh, for me, if you don't eat garlic or onion, you're in trouble in my restaurant and in my home. Seriously, because sometimes we have somebody who come in and she say, I don't like garlic, I don't like onion, and I don't like spices. I look at her, I said, I'm sorry, I can give you pita bread, but that's it. So garlic and onion and fresh tomatoes and good olive oil, that's a must.
Those are your,
that's your
bread and butter. They're your water.
That's exactly. That's like the salt in the house. It has to be there. I mean,
yeah. And
then you have basil, rosemary, fresh mint. Like now I have fresh mint, so immediately I think of make like a pesto from fresh mint, white thyme, fresh ginger. I love spices because basically even if you have a steak, whatever you do is everything is bland until you add all these vegan. I always tell people, I said, what all the flavor come from? Comes from herbs, which is our plant. That means vegan. So your vegan dishes can be the most delicious food.
Yeah. Lots of colorful flavor. I feel like there's a lot of
absolutely.
You get more phytonutrients from herbs than just the vegetables alone. I was so
and always tell them also, don't we have a teeth for a reason. Please don't overcook your vegetables. You wanna make noise when you eat.
Yeah.
Because the more you cook, so that's part of the flavor. Because when you overcook anything, even the herbs, you lost the flavor, you lost the textures. So
And if anyone's counting, you lost a lot of nutrients. Honestly.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
So what advice do you have if someone's listening and they'd really like to take charge of what they eat without stress? Because for some people, food is stressful for them. So what do you say to that person?
So what I usually, I recommend, let's say you sit down and choose 5 dishes that you love, that your family loves, whether it's pizza, pasta, a grain dish, rice and beans or something, and make them over and over until you don't have to look at the book, until they become yours. So instead of basil, say, okay, you know what? Let me use thyme this time, or let me use cilantro this time. And this way, that's how you start basically building your own portfolio. Start basic recipes. Make them yours, and then build again. Few salads, few sauces, that's it. And nobody keeps cooking different dishes every day of the year. Trust me, I don't care who the chef is. Every household, you have few favorite recipes, and that's what you cook them over and over. So that's what some people feel intimidated about. They think they have to cook something different every day. That's, doesn't need to happen.
Right.
So for me, the basic dish is pasta. I can give you a couple ideas for, easy pasta sauce, and then you just boil your pasta, and that's it. And take some romaine lettuce, some tomatoes. Now you have baby cucumbers from the farmer's market. Toast them together, some olive oil, lemon juice, and you have a wonderful meal.
Yeah. And I hear you, I think you're an expert at these beautiful, amazing salads. And that's kind of one of my things for the week is I want to make a beautiful, amazing salad. The first time I had tabbouleh at your restaurant, I thought, all right, the past tabbouleh, and I know this is one of your most popular dishes. The past time I had tabbouleh was all couscous or all the grain. And with your tabbouleh, it's all parsley. And I love parsley.
Parsley, yes.
It's so beneficial, and it's so hearty. Every time I grow herbs, I'm killing my basil and cilantro, which I love, but at least the parsley, he always stands up for me. Parsley and mint. So got to indulge in the parsley and mint.
And you keep cutting them, and they keep coming back. That's what I love about them. They all summer long, you just cut and you have more, cut and have more.
Mm-hmm. I think, with the advice you gave on finding 5 recipes that you love and making them over and over until they're yours, and you've kind of given them your own persona, that is getting comfortable, with something. And the more you get comfortable, the more you like something, right? Because no one likes something they're uncomfortable with.
Exactly. And the less stressed you are.
Yes, exactly.
If somebody walk in and say, I want pasta, no big deal. Give me 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah. And in the meantime, maybe someone learns how to use the knife and they can cut up the vegetables faster and they're a little quicker in the kitchen. And that makes them happy too, right? It just takes a little bit of practice. That's one of the big things I'm surprised by in people's kitchen is oh, you have a dull knife or not a knife at all. I don't know how you make anything, unfortunately.
No, like I said, because people for a while, they didn't cook and they became intimidated. But I agree with you. A knife is a must. Good olive oil is a must. Good chopping board is a must. And like you said, what I do, and when I cook at home alone, and when I cook at the restaurant before my staff arrive, I have my own music. I put my music on, turn it loud, get my knife, get my vegetables, and even this, it makes you happy, less stressed. And take it easy if you're just starting to chop, take it easy, especially if you have sharp knife.
Right.
You don't have to chop so fast like, what chefs you see on TV. Just take it easy, chop a little bit, and then you notice a difference in smell of the vegetables when you chop fresh. Because don't forget, when you buy chopped vegetables from the grocery stores, they already started the decaying process. You already broke the cells. So that's for me, when I see people buying chopped onion and chopped celery, it's no, please don't. You're paying money for somebody else's work, which it takes you 2 minutes. And second, you're already paying vegetables that they lost some of the nutrients and they're starting to decay. Mm-hmm. And the smell is not there. So it starts, slowly chop, slowly, turn your olive oil on, put the music on, and then, start cooking, and it becomes easier.
Yeah.
Time after time becomes really easier.
Right. And with ease comes less stress. So,
exactly.
Sanaa, you have a couple great cookbooks. I think they're on Amazon. What are they called?
The first one is called Secret of Healthy Middle Eastern Cuisine. And then we have one, I think there's only a few copies left. It's called Oh Boy, I Can't Believe It's Soy. You know, for a while it was out of tofu recipe, so I made out of recipe using tofu. And then, by the way, one of them is vegan vegan tiramisu in that book. And then Secret of Healthy Middle Eastern, and then gluten-free vegetarian Mediterranean recipes.
Yeah. I know I have that one. That one's very good. That's where the walnut spread is, just so you know.
Yes, exactly. Yes, yes.
It's a good one. Where can people find you online?
So I have my blog is sanaacooks.com. It's under construction, but there's already about 300 some recipes. 90% of them are vegan, and there's 2 I use milk. And almost all of them are gluten-free. So there's that's sanaacooks.com. I'm on Instagram, which I post out of pictures and recipes too. Just Sanaa Abourezk. Let's see, what else? We have Twitter, Facebook, Sanaa Street Gourmet. I'm everywhere.
Yeah, you're everywhere. And so Sanaa Cooks is SANAA Cooks.com, just so everyone knows.
Yeah, Cooks. Yeah, Sanaa Cooks. There's an S at the end, yeah.
Yeah. Thanks so much for coming on today and just talking shop about the kitchen and kind of how you got to where you are, because I think the story is half the fun. Because sometimes people look at the restaurant and they think, oh, this is awesome. And she's, but she's Mediterranean, so that's why it's like this. But really, like, you want to share this with the world. So we just really appreciate you sharing a little piece of your Mediterranean journey with us.
Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it very much. And please, everybody, get a knife and start cooking.
Yeah, exactly.
One of the best gifts you could give us at the Less Stress Life is your feedback. We are paid in podcast reviews. If you enjoyed this or any other episode, please leave us a review. In the iTunes store or from your podcast app, just search for Less Stress Life as if you're not already subscribed. Click on the banana face image, scroll to the bottom where it shows the text of other reviews, and write a review. While you're there, hey, make sure you hit subscribe. For Android or Stitcher users, you gotta go to the desktop site and search for Less Stress Life, and then scroll down to leave a review. Stitcher doesn't load Apple reviews on their site, so if you want, you can leave a review in both places. Your feedback means a lot to the success of the show. Thanks so much for taking the time to do that. You rock.